Hey there, global citizens. Welcome back to the Global Talks, your podcast dedicated to uncovering the joys and challenges of global citizens. My name is Gisani, and I am with Global Citizen Solutions, a boutique investment migration firm helping expats to find their ideal citizenship by investment program outside their birth country. So today, we are going to talk about Americans living in Portugal. There are roughly 7,000 Americans living in Portugal, according to the Portuguese Foreign Border Service. It's hard to tell how many of them come from California, but there appears to be a large community of Californians. And it's not difficult to see why. The Portuguese landscape, the climate, and the wines are probably the closest you will get to Cali in Europe. Today, we want to invite you to join us on the trip to Portugal, guided by two Californians who chose Portugal as their new home. We will talk about the contribution that Californians are bringing to the country, share some thoughts about sustainability, entrepreneurship, startups, and lots more. So joining us today are Jonathan Littman and Nathan Hadlock, the founders of the cross-border California-Portugal Entrepreneurs Club, Redbridge Lisbon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you in our office. So let's talk about California, let's talk about Portugal. And before we start, I think first of all, we all want to know, why Lisbon? Why did you move to Lisbon?
I happened to write this story last year for Los Angeles magazine.
Mm-hmm.
The new California dream is in Portugal. And I'm a guy who was born in San Francisco, had a lot of time in Europe, but I came here a few years ago and I started to discover how magical it is. And I think both Nathan and I and many other Californians, we just feel at home here. It's more than the coast, the beach. I think it's the warmth of the people. And there's a bit more of a laid-back feel that we love.
Yeah. And how about you, Nathan?
Yeah, it was a very deliberate choice. My partner and I were at a stage in our life where we're looking to slow down, enjoy more. And so we made a list of the top 10 places in the world, no restrictions, and went through the pros and cons, and probably within a few days, Lisbon quickly made it to the top of the list. It's if you're looking for quality of life, warm weather, ocean, genuine people, Lisbon is a place to go.
And what do you two find very strange and very different, very quirky about Portugal when you arrived here, when you start living the life of a Portuguese person? What do you think was very different from your lives back home?
There's a different time, right? The time.
You're taking my answer. Come on.
There's a time. And there is this thing called a weekend here, which I think we both love.
Yeah.
But we have partners in our venture, Redbridge, who are Portuguese, and they work incredibly hard during the week. And the Portuguese are great at a Portuguese word, which is desenrasca, which means sort of to figure things out and get things done. And we find, I think, that the best Portuguese are very entrepreneurial, just maybe not on the weekend.
Yeah, but that's how it should be, no?
It's ironic. We move here for the slower pace, but it takes a while to get used to. I enjoy the slower life, but then I find myself thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's too slow." But it's wonderful because it really forces what's important in life.
Yeah. And now I just wanted to I want to ask about Redbridge Lisbon, but also about what you do for a living. But I don't know what comes first, if I should, because obviously it's an entrepreneurs club, so your line of work might be involved with the founding of Redbridge Lisbon. So I will start with a question which you can choose who want to answer. Yeah. So why did Redbridge came about?
We're both entrepreneurial. Nathan is much more talented in the tech area. I wrote books around innovation with IDEO, a famous innovation firm. I was here last fall when I wrote that story, and we both ended up partnering with Ugo Antonello and Paulo Gaspar, really accomplished people, and Felipe Pinto de Carvalho. And from our Redbridge Club, you can see the Red Bridge here.
Yeah.
Bom 25. And we, of course, have the Golden Gate, which is red. And we realized that we should connect the two cultures. So I'm not an American, I'm a Californian. And I think that there's a great potency in connecting. Because what's happening now is a lot of Californians, like Nathan, want to come here and do great projects, as Nathan is. And so we realized it should be this cross-border club, and we had the vision, and on Thursday, a couple days from now, we'll have event number 9 since end of April of this year.
When was Redbridge founded?
Our first event was April 30, 2022.
Okay.
Just, you know.
And you two met here, or?
No, we've known each other for quite some time,
Yeah.
From San Francisco, and
did you know that you were moving to Portugal at that time?
I think I told you. You said, I love Portugal.
Yeah, we saw each other at this club, which we'll be connecting to Redbridge, which is a great club called Shack 15. And I saw you the last time there in February, I think, of 20. And something happened called the pandemic. But Nathan arrived, and he shouldn't tell you what happened. He arrived right as the pandemic hit.
Just by coincidence, we arrived the day before lockdown. And so we're currently vacationing in the Philippines, and the plan was to come to San Francisco, pick up our stuff, and move here. But all the airports were shutting down when we were there, so we had to pivot, come straight to Lisbon, and it was the day before lockdown happened. And we had no laptop, our bathing suits, and an Airbnb booked for 2 weeks. So we were. It was a fun way to move to a new country.
Absolutely, yeah. Very memorable.
But during this time, you had organized a lot of calls where we were checking in and talking about projects.
This was the pandemic, and we had a little club before this we called the Reset Club, because we both felt that the pandemic was a time to maybe reinvent yourself. And Nathan really was here, in Portugal, and he'll tell you what he was doing. And I was starting to. I decided to study Portuguese, and now I'm a business fluent, 2 years later. And eventually this converged, and we're both here in Lisbon at the same time.
Wow. Fascinating.
So for me, one of the big draws to Portugal is the cost of living is much lower than that of San Francisco. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, the lower your costs, the longer your runway, the more risk that you're able to take. And so because of this, I was allowed to work on problems that I thought were very big and important. And for me, that's climate change and agriculture. And so like any entrepreneur, you start with prototyping and testing ideas. And a few months after moving to Portugal, I met my partner, co-founder in this project, and he was also focused on agriculture and climate change. And so the mission we were able to boil it down to is, how can we reverse the decline of soil health at scale? How can we make an impact in a very scalable way, which is, you can do a perfect project small, but it's hard to make impact at scale. And so this launched a project called Peleterra, of the earth in Portuguese, which is a way to earn a golden visa through investment in sustainable agriculture. And so we thought it was a very cool win-win in that, from a Portuguese perspective, we're taking money that's normally spend on real estate and apartments and diverting it to rural communities, farming, environmental impact.
Okay.
So it's been a really fun project.
So since you brought agriculture to the table, I wanted to ask you more about it because I think it's, Portugal has its similarities with California in climate and soil and production, wines and so on. So do you think, is there a need for investment in agriculture in Portugal? How do you see that scenario unveiling here in the country?
Absolutely. So the agriculture sector in general has been very much underinvested in over the last 40 years. You can see this in as little as a 30-minute drive outside of Lisbon, where a lot of the activity is just basic grazing. The average age of a farmer is 65, and the next generation is not interested in this.
Yeah.
And so those are the negative points, but the Portugal is uniquely positioned with its climate and water resources. As 9-10 years ago, a large public works project was completed, creating the largest man-made lake in Europe. Lake Hadlock.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot if you haven't been there. And so this has started a bit of a boom in the agriculture space here, allowing higher value commodities such as almonds, olives, avocados to flourish.
And it was a very hot day, and that lake was a lifesaver.
For me, it reminds me a lot of Sonoma, Napa Valley in California. It's rolling grass hills with oak trees on the hill. It's for me, every time I see it, I want to string a hammock between the trees, but it's beautiful, and there's a lot of opportunity in the ag space, not only from investment into these higher value commodities, but really reinventing what agriculture should be.
Okay.
And so from our perspective, we focus on the soil. Usually soil is thought of as just a medium to hold the roots of plants, but there's so much biological activity there. So if you can support that system, for us it's putting more carbon into the ground. You increase this biological activity, the plants become more resilient, the food you grow is more nutritious, something we've completely forgotten as a civilization. And so it creates a positive feedback loop rather than this extractive negative system that we see in most conventional agriculture today. Right.
So I really like what you explained now about giving examples of how you could work the soil and so on. But I know that your background in California, in the past, I don't know if it was in California, but in the past, in the US, you used to also work, that was your line of work. And do you think Californians can bring this sort of know-how that could improve, bring benefits to sustainable projects in Portugal?
Are you asking in general on the entrepreneurial side of things?
No, more on the agricultural side of things.
Yeah.
For entrepreneur, if...
For sure. In my experience, entrepreneurs are most successful when they're able to talk with other entrepreneurs. When you take an idea from over here and an idea over here and you put them together, that's where real innovation happens.
Okay.
And I think John and I saw that, and that was a real motivation for Redbridge. Is we meet so many talented entrepreneurs, not just from California, but here in Portugal. How do we get everyone talking and exploring ideas?
And I might want to just build on that. One of the things unusual about Redbridge is it exists in Lisboa and it exists in San Francisco. So in September.